I am going to make a cauliflower shawarma bowl for my lunch, and I thought I would share the process with you. Um, I will share, it's not my recipe, so I will share the recipe that I am using down below. It is from Dishing Out Health, but it looks to be pretty quick and easy. I'm just going to chop up some cauliflower. I've already drained the chickpeas and have them sitting in the sink over there. And then it's just kind of a matter of mixing together some spices, and that's it. And we're going to toss it all together onto a baking tray or two, and then stick it in the oven to roast. And then I also do need to get some rice going in my Instant Pot while that is cooking. So let's get started. Okay, so while both of those things are going, I am now going to switch over and make the tahini sauce. And I did kind of mess up a little bit because I was looking through everything I needed for the shawarma, and I had all the ingredients here, but I didn't really pay attention to the sauce. And the sauce needs a mixture of cilantro and parsley, like fresh cilantro and parsley. And I have neither one. So the closest I can do is some ground coriander, which I don't have a whole lot of this left. But I will probably just kind of play around with it a little bit and make my own sauce. So this part's going to deviate from the recipe a little bit, but feel free to follow the recipe if you have everything you need to do it. Okay, I added just a little bit of almond milk to kind of thin it out a little, and I have, I may add just a little bit more coriander, but I think I have it at least the consistency that I want. I think I'm going to add a little more coriander and a little more cumin. I find that I always want more cumin than a recipe calls for, or cumin, or however you pronounce it where you are. Yep, good. Okay, so now I just have to wait for everything to finish cooking, which that's my timer to stir everything up, and then we pop it back in again. So. All right, so everything is done. I've released the pressure off the rice, so it's ready to go. All I need to do now is assemble. Hello, I am coming to you from an old spot that I have not visited in a little while in any of my videos. I have been extremely busy working on the garden, which if you've been following along, you will have seen, but for the last couple of weeks, I have it done now. And so I'm ready to kind of get back to kind of a normal schedule, but I've not had a whole lot of nutrition content on here while working with that. And I do know that many of you following along now have found me from my video, which I will link down below for any new viewers, but it was what I eat in a day as a plant-based nutritionist. And so I know you're here for the food and the nutrition. And so I wanted to go ahead and include this little bonus video as I'm working my way back to a normal schedule to cover some of that content. And also because I have finally finished my continuing education course that I started a few weeks back that I had to put on pause while I worked on the garden. And I know I have shared some information from that course with you before. I did finally finish it up this week, took my test, passed it. So I've got those 8 continuing education credits, and then I'm getting ready to start the next course, which will be my final 8. We have to have 16 every 2 years. And then the renewal date for me is in June. So I still have plenty of time, and it won't take me long to get through the next course either. It looked to be like basically a 60-minute long lecture, but it will take me a lot longer just because I love to take lots of notes as I'm doing this and to hang on to. So as I'm working my way through that one, I will share it with you too. I am very excited about that one because it is an autoimmune course. And for me, that is probably my most important topic because it's something that I have a genetic predisposition to. My grandma died of a type of, well, she didn't die from it. In a roundabout way, she did, but she had a type of non-Hodgkin lymphoma called chronic lymphocytic leukemia, which is not actually leukemia, despite it having that in the name. It is a type of non-Hodgkin lymphoma, but it behaves a lot like a leukemia in that it affects your white blood cell count. But she was on a chemotherapy pill for that, which gave her an ulcer, and it was a massive ulcer. It was like 10 inches long and 1.5 inches wide. And ultimately, that was what ended up taking her life, unfortunately, this past July. But anyway, so she had that. Her brother also has it. She has another brother who died of an acute leukemia. His daughter has lupus. So this is something that seems to be genetically in her side of the family, which puts me at a more elevated risk than the average person as well. And then ironically enough, my boyfriend, and this he was diagnosed just, I think we had been together for only a few months at this point. So he didn't even know he had it when we met, but he has a type of non-Hodgkin lymphoma as well, which is considered like the sister cancer to the one that my grandma had, called cutaneous T-cell lymphoma. So it is a non-Hodgkin lymphoma that affects the skin. So, because of them and because of my own personal genetic predisposition, autoimmune is a major focus for me. And I'm really excited to take this course because it is about the gut immune connection. And it's focused on autoimmune disease. So I'm ready to get this one started. And as I go through that one, I will share with you some things that I learn as well. This one, I'm going to try to keep it as brief as possible because there were 26 videos in this course that I just finished, and I believe I did 10 of them all just kind of back to back to hurry up and get it done. So I'm not going to prattle on forever. I started to do that, but I don't want this to be a 30-minute long video on top of what I've already recorded with the cooking part or a cooking segment before this. But I do kind of want to share some interesting information that I have learned. The primary reason I took this course was because it was supposed to cover Parkinson's, which it did, but it did just minimally. It had one video out of 26 that actually was about Parkinson's. And let me be honest, I'm a little bit miffed that I paid for this course. It was very, very good information, don't get me wrong. But every single one of these videos, it was basically a playlist from nutritionfacts.org. And Dr. Greger, who is like, there are so many good plant-based lifestyle medicine doctors out there, but he is my favorite. And the reason he is my favorite is because he and his team pour through every single research study that is done, and they create videos, and he writes books, and they put it out there for the world for free. It is completely nonprofit. Any profit he makes from book sales goes to charity. He does not do ads in any of his videos, including on YouTube. But nutritionfacts.org, every single one of these videos is out there and available 100% for free. And then I paid for a course, which it tells you what it's about, but it doesn't tell you where the materials are sourced from. So after I paid for it and got into it and I saw that it was essentially a playlist of videos from nutritionfacts.org, I was a little miffed about that because those are free. If I had just known which ones I needed to pass the darn test, which you can't even take the test without paying for the course anyway, but that's neither here nor there. Anyway, very, very, very good information. It's just very scattered, covers a lot of topics, and is accessible for free to anyone who wants to know it. So anyhow, let me get into what I learned, because we're going to start with Parkinson's because my stepdad has Parkinson's. He is the same one that here just in the last few weeks, the videos about like nutrition for post heart attack or for heart health, because he suffered a heart attack in January as well. So he's kind of got a double whammy going on with Parkinson's and then also recovering from a heart attack and trying to heal heart disease. So anyhow, the information about Parkinson's is what I was here for, and I did learn a little bit. Constipation is a common symptom from Parkinson's. There was a question about which one is the symptom and which one is the cause, because pesticides have a very strong causal link to Parkinson's, pesticide exposure. And think about, spraying pesticides inside the home is something that was definitely mentioned, because so many of us do that. um, and when you're constipated, the whole point of your large intestine is to get rid of waste from the body. Well, when you're constipated, that waste is sitting there longer. And so anything that's in it is, more able to be absorbed by the body because it's sitting there longer. So is that helping contribute to the cause of Parkinson's, or is Parkinson's causing the constipation? So it's kind of like the chicken and the egg scenario. But then it talked about how 70% of the neurons that are associated with the development of Parkinson's disease are already dead before you even have symptoms, which is a significant number. But when it comes to those neurons, flavonoids in plants that are, so berries, it was specifically what this one was talking about, but anything with antioxidants, anthocyanins, which are strong in berries, and also leafy greens, these are very, very protective of those neurons, and it helps protect the neural pathways from damage from those pesticides. So very important as a preventive measure from Parkinson's, but then also to help kind of decrease the speed of the progression of the disease, is to be consuming an antioxidant rich diet. Something else I thought that was interesting, so phthalates, which is an endocrine disrupting chemical that is found primarily in plastics, also the primary source in our diet is through chicken and eggs. And they have done studies to try to figure out where this is coming from, because they thought maybe it's plastic packaging that chicken is wrapped in. So they've done studies where they made sure that the chicken did not ever touch a single bit of plastic. It was not, not in the feed or what have you. And yet still there were high level of phthalates in the chicken and the eggs. So if you're eating a plant-based diet, you don't have to worry about that. But if you're not eating a plant-based diet, you're just eating kind of a plant-strong diet, that is something to consider when eating chicken and eggs. It did cover some little bit about osteoporosis. I did learn a little bit new. I've already kind of learned about osteoporosis in the past, but I learned some terminology. So osteoblasts are new deposits of bone, and then osteoclasts are the chiseling away of old bone. And so you have both of those, and postmenopausal women especially, there's an imbalance between the two. So you have a lot more bone that is being chiseled away than you do that is being built or formed. And therefore, osteoporosis is known to increase in postmenopausal women. And most post-menopausal women also consistently have lower levels of antioxidants. And it makes sense because free radicals promote osteoporosis, and antioxidants fight those free radicals. That helps wipe free radicals out of the system. So if you have a lot of antioxidants in your blood, the occurrence of osteoporosis is going to be less. And so it makes sense that in postmenopausal women who have osteoporosis, that they would have lower levels of antioxidants. So eating, again, antioxidant-rich foods, which seems to be the theme of the day, helps prevent, or even in some cases treat or minimize the effects of osteoporosis. So they tested prunes. Prunes showed a remarkable improvement in bone formation. they only tested prunes and apples kind of help too in the long term, but not as much as prunes. So if they would test many other fruits and vegetables and kind of give us a better idea, I'm sure there are many others besides just prunes. But eating a very well-rounded whole food plant-based diet is significantly better than not eating fruits or vegetables at all, for sure. And then almonds actually showed a remarkable improvement in the amount of deterioration. So, kind of combating the osteoclast part of that, almonds help prevent the deterioration of bones. Sodium and arterial function, we already know that a lot of excess salt leads to higher blood pressure. But what I also learned is that it also stiffens arteries and it prevents them from dilating as well. So even if you're a person who does not experience any blood pressure changes due to sodium, which there are people who are resistant, so that can happen, but you do still have to worry about normal arterial function because of the stiffening and the dilation factor that plays in with sodium. It talks a little bit about zeranol use in meat and breast cancer. And so zeranol is one of the many synthetic hormones that is injected into meat in America and is the reason why American meat and these hormones that are being used are actually banned in Europe. But, we still get them in this lovely country where there is very minimal regulation in that industry. But one thing that I thought was interesting, there is, well, back in the early 2000s, I remember there being a big stink about BPA, and it's pretty well been eliminated from our plastics now. But that was an endocrine disrupting chemical that was found in plastic. That this particular one called zeranol is 100,000 times more estrogenic. So as far as promoting breast cancer in particular, they actually took blood from a cow injected with this zeranol and dripped it on breast cancer cells, and the proliferation rate doubled. And then it said that it can cause the transformation of a normal, healthy breast cell to promote into a cancerous cell after exposure to zeranol in just 21 days. It talks about phytoestrogen in beer. There is one called 8PN, and it is significantly more potent than the isoflavones that are found in soy. But the problem with it is, and so this is something that I probably haven't really talked about since I actually gave a talk in public a couple of years back now. But there are two different kinds of estrogen receptors. We have alpha receptors, we have beta receptors. And the alpha receptors are essentially like cancer promoting, and the beta receptors are protective against cancer growth. And so the different estrogens that attach to these, the alpha receptor, that is any animal product that you eat, the estrogens from that will attach to that receptor. And then the plant estrogens, phytoestrogens, they can be more selective. They can kind of attach to both, but most of them, and especially like isoflavones in soy, to be specific, is a beta attacher. It attaches to beta. It is highly protective against cancer. So the fear of estrogen in soy and cancer is very unfounded. This particular one called 8PN that is found in hops, it attaches to the beta receptor, and it is significantly more powerful than the isoflavones in soy, which means it is a pretty strong cancer promoter, unfortunately. And also is kind of responsible for man boobs and men who drink a lot of beer. So just something to keep in mind there. And that pretty much wraps up everything that I found interesting or new information, I guess, from this course. It did also talk about why Latinos live longer in America, because, they do tend to eat a lot more of the Western diet once they come here and still, live kind of sedentary lives like the rest of Americans that live here, but they still have better health outcomes, slightly better. They live longer and they have fewer instances of chronic disease. They still have it, but not as bad as white and Black Americans do. And that has been associated to their consumption of beans, which is one of the most, healthy foods that we can eat. So that, in a nutshell, was the rest of that course. I know I talked a couple other times, and I have a nutrition chat playlist that this video is actually going to be in. So if you want to see any of the other videos that have more of that information, you can check out that playlist. and they will be in there. But that is this course. I wrapped it up. I finished. I passed. We're good. I'm moving on to the autoimmune course here very soon. Probably won't start it today because after work tonight, I have plans with Michael. His son has a karate graduation, so we're going to go to that and then go to dinner with his parents. And then tomorrow, which I think this video is actually going to come out after that one, so it will already be out if you want to go and watch it. But tomorrow I am going to start taking down my winter decor. Funny enough, it is actually cold today. We're supposed to get some snow later on around like 4 o'clock this afternoon. But speaking of which, I need to wrap this up because I need to clock back into work here in just a couple of minutes. But I'm going to start taking down the winter decorations. And then Monday, when I'm off work for President's Day, I'm going to start putting up my spring decorations. So if you are interested in that at all, you can hop back and check out the last video before this one, because this one will be out Friday. That one will have come out on Wednesday. So that will be my spring decor install. And then after this, we are going to get back to a normal schedule. I should be back on my usual 2 videos a week and kind of more vlog-like, where it's covering multiple different things that I'm just doing in my normal everyday life. So anyway, I'm going to hop off of here and I'm going to clock back into work. So I just want to say thank you for being here. And as always, if you have any nutrition related questions, please feel free to ask and I will do my best to answer. So thanks for watching.